Welcome to PodJunction podcast, where podcasters learn to grow their business.
They learn their lines.
And they learn their lines too, yes. My name is Sadaf, Beynon, still learning my lines. And next to me is Matt Edmundson.
Also learning his lines. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. If this is your first time with us, a very warm welcome to you. Do subscribe to the show, as we just, like Sadaf said, we just talk about podcasting and how we use it to grow our businesses. And we do that by having great guests come on the show, and we pick apart what they say, quite literally pick it apart and figure out how we can use it for our own podcasts. I host podcasts, you host this podcast, so you produce podcasts.
I do, yes.
Man, we are connected. We have a podcast production company. We are all in. So that's why we just like talking about podcasting, really. So welcome to the show. And of course, if you're a regular listener, a very warm welcome back to you. Hopefully you're getting some stuff out of this, and hopefully we are actually genuinely helping you with your podcast, both practically and inspirationally, of course, because we are big fans of podcasting. Obviously, hence the reason we're sat here chatting about podcasting. Yeah. Yay. Our favorite Tuesday morning activity.
Yes, it is. It is.
You almost sounded convinced. So yeah, very, very warm welcome to you. And today, in today's show, we have
Jaryd Krause.
What? It's like that took a little bit of time. Sadaf, I'm not going to lie, it took a little bit of time for that sort of what's the word I'm looking for? I was going to say waggle, but that's not the right word. But
Reaction time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Waggle time.
Waggle. Is that Scouse?
No, it's just a total word I've made up.
Matt.
Yeah. It sounds like a great waggle, though. I think I should buy waggle.com. I'm sure that may exist, actually. That should be the name of our next podcast, Waggle.
You're on your own.
Yeah, it can be, but I'm not going to be on the podcast with you, nor am I going to produce such rubbish and triviality. So we've got Jaryd today.
Yes, so today is part 4 of our for our 4-part series.
Still learning your lines.
Yes, still learning my lines. Right, so part 4 of our 4-part series with Jaryd Krause, and he is the host of Buying Online Businesses podcast.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, and in this particular episode, you're going to learn how to streamline your production process, how to leverage tech to make your editing easier and more cost-effective. Yes.
I'm doing the sound effects today.
Thank you. And how to keep your audience central to your content.
Ooh.
Thank you, Matt.
That will be the first and last time Matt makes such noises on the PodJunction podcast.
Woohoo!
Now you're doing your own sound effects. Yeah, no expense spared in the production value of this podcast. Now I'm looking forward to this. Jaryd, if you've been with us before, you'll know that we've had Jaryd 3 times so far on this podcast. The way we do this, by the way, if you don't know, if you are new to the show, either Sadaf or myself, predominantly you these days, will interview a podcast about how they do podcasting. For example, with Jaryd, and how his podcasting has helped him with his business and the tips and tricks he's learned along the way. That whole interview usually takes about an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a short interview. And so what we do is we take snippets, 3 or 4 snippets from said interview, and we sort of go over that over the 3 or 4 weeks, which is what we've done with Jaryd. Next week comes the full episode.
Yes.
So
on Friday.
On Friday,
yeah.
We will release the full interview. So you get to hear the whole interview as well. So we just literally take snippets from the podcast. There's so much value in the interview. We are just literally taking 1 or 2 things and just talking around those things. And so we will release the full interview on Friday. So make sure you subscribe and check out the full conversation with Jaryd, because the man is a legend. He's been on EP.
He has.
I've been on his podcast. So I'm very familiar with Jaryd and how he does podcasting, and how he is so laid back. He's just so easy to talk to, so super chilled out. He's a guy that is from Australia and lives wherever the surf takes him. And his podcast sort of follows him around wherever he goes, I think, which is great. I think when we did a podcast recording, he was set outside in, I don't even know, some tropical place like Tahiti or somewhere. He'd been surfing all day, and he was just sat outside by the, by a light so we could see him. And I'm just like, this is so amazing, really. So we've got that coming up. That's how it works, isn't it, really? So we've got part 4 with Jaryd. Going through those 3 things you already talked. So production, basically.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything to add to this?
No.
Right. Well, I'm going to play the clip, and Sadaf and I will be back to talk about said clip in just a few minutes. But here's Jaryd.
Can you talk us through a bit about your production process?
Absolutely. So the production process, it starts from basically looking for the guests, me approving them. Once they're approved, then my content manager will go out and she will pitch them all to come on, and then send them calendar links. They book in. When I see them booked in, then I'll go away and sort of look at top 2 to 3 topics that I'm going to speak about. Yeah. I'll create a file. Their bio will get put in, a couple of links. I'll create some talking points, and then I'll get them on the pod, record it. I will then go away and create the title. I'll create a really good title for it, and then I give it to my content manager, Eden. She goes away and gives it to the editors. The editors edit the podcast, put it together, give us some YouTube clips and shorts and all that sort of stuff, put it all in a folder in Google Drive, and then she'll go away out and schedule it in and distribute it on all the, the website and all the places, YouTube, Spotify, all that sort of stuff, and then put the clips out as well. How that's evolving now is that using Riverside and my content manager, we're testing her out doing some of the editing to cut like one of the roles out of a particular editor, and doing it that way. So it's still going to be the same production as always, just maybe a different editor.
Why is that?
Just because Riverside's gotten really good and really easy, and I've been using this for years and years now, and I didn't realize how easy it can be, that it can produce the same result as an expensive editor that's really good as well. So I stacked them up against each other and sort of been like, oh, well, maybe we could do it this way.
Yeah, I totally agree about Riverside. We've been using it for quite some time as well, and just more recently getting our heads around how much potential it's got.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, it's only gotten better and better. I think I signed up. I think we were talking about it. I think I signed up in 2021.
Yes, we were talking about it. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so you said that you come up with the title for it. Is that because you have had the conversation and you feel like you have the best understanding of what the content is, or is there another reason behind that?
It's definitely that. Also, I've done a lot of copywriting. Okay. And I've told a lot of stories and have gotten really good at creating titles. And I just know that I know what my audience will go, I need to listen to. I know that how they read it, and I know what will get them to go and say, I need this. I need to listen to this. So yeah.
That's cool. So how do you get inside your audience's head to be able to identify things like that?
So when somebody joins our course or membership, is they get sent a form to fill out, and it's like, how can I help you best? And those questions are basically what do you need from me? What do you want from me? Why are you taking on this role? What are your goals? All that sort of stuff. And then through all of that, we collate a bunch of information. This is what good copywriters do, is they go away and work out what their wants, needs, fears, and frustrations and desires are for the people in the space. And they go away and actually take those words. What I do is I go away and take those words, and I just know the exact words that they're using for what they actually want to achieve, right? For me, it's for my audiences, they want to acquire a business for financial freedom so they can spend more time doing what they love with the people they love. Yeah. And there's other words that we can use around that. And so, that's how I know what they want, is I just ask them.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I think that's something we can do, isn't it? Just just assume things because they're like, they fit this niche, so they must want this.
Yeah, exactly. And the more nitty gritty you can get into, like where they're at in their own lives and the challenges they're facing, the better you can structure your conversations and questions with guests, and then also structure your course content and your business and your service to help them just get rid of those challenges. And when you really understand those and you can articulate those well and how to overcome them, there's so much more trust, because they're like, holy shit, like I was a construction worker, or Jaryd was a construction worker, and he had all these challenges that I've faced, and he's overcome them. He knows how to do it, and he's speaking about how he's done it multiple times. Of course, I'm going to go away and like listen to him and work with him. So there's that, and then it's also, you know, as I have evolved, and I do understand this, and people have told me as well, the more I've evolved, and I've been out of, you know, I quit my job, my full-time job almost 9 years ago now. So I've been very removed from this work 9 to 5 thing for almost a decade. And so I understand that since being removed, there's things that I it's harder for me to empathize and put myself in the boots and the shoes of those people that are on the ground doing, you know, where I was at when I first started the journey. So another helpful thing to do is to speak to those people and work with them one-on-one. So I do some one-on-one work with people still.
Okay.
And that really helps. I also have a community,
you have an insight
active that speak about this regularly too. So I'm in there, and
If that got you curious and you want to catch the full episode, be sure to subscribe to the show. We've got plenty more great conversations coming up. You did those.
Welcome back. You thought you knew.
Myself.
Yeah, you know, you recorded that video. You know when it's going to end. There's even a countdown timer saying this is going to. So what have you muted?
So on Riverside, you know where when I'm interviewing, I do the audible which I don't like that I do that. And so on Riverside,
especially when I'm sat here next to you in the interview, because that clip you've just heard. The way the way we record the podcast is we play the clip. So it's the first time that I've seen that clip with Jaryd, right?
Yes.
So I get to react spontaneously, which is great. You, of course, have to listen to yourself talking to Jaryd and distract yourself accordingly.
Yes.
And so it doesn't help, I suppose, that I'm sat here next to you going, It's
another reason I don't like doing it.
Yes, Matt's
But
teasing.
on Riverside, there's a way to mute those. So I thought I had done it, but maybe not.
Maybe next time. Don't do it on this one because there'll just be a lot of blank spaces in the podcast. Anyway, welcome back. So yeah, we should really one day we should probably put a little camera or something in the studio that just records separately what actually happens, sort of all back
When we're off camera.
Yeah, when the record button's not pressed. I think people find those things I find them really interesting, actually, what happens. But yes. So, production, how to streamline your production process, how to leverage tech to make editing easier and more cost effective. And the third thing was how to keep your audience central to your content. So, streamline your production process. What were your takeaways?
He knows his process from start to finish. This is what he process. And you know, it just seems very organized. He knows who's doing what, when that's happening, and so it's he's got very clear roles for the people who are on his team, and all of those roles accumulate to a streamlined goal that they have to achieve, and then they're using people with the right skills and abilities to be able to achieve those as well. So.
Yeah, I think it's really important as you get into podcasting more and more, especially if you're doing your own production, or even I suppose if you're outsourcing, it becomes even more important. I think you need to clearly articulate your statement of best practice, right? Your SOP, as they that we like to abbreviate everything, your SOPs. But I think having almost a statement of production is super helpful. And just understanding what that is. Now, we found in the early years of podcasting, that changed all the time as we figured everything out. What seems to, maybe you can comment on this because you do the whole production thing a lot more than I do. What seems to be happening is you need less and less tools. So you mentioned it in the conversation with Jaryd, and he mentioned it as well about Riverside. So it used to be when we first used we started with Riverside, then we stopped. Yeah. And now we're sort of back with Riverside, right? Except for this podcast, which we record with Ecamm because it's just the way it's worked out. But with Riverside, you can now do a whole lot of the production aspect, which you couldn't do before. So it can create for you like the social media clips and all that sort of stuff. So it seems to me like the process of production is becoming easier in some respects because you're not having to have multiple bits of software in the whole process. Am I right?
Yeah. I think looking back and even now, we're continually streamlining that workflow, aren't we?
Yeah.
And that's based on several factors, like what else is going on? How many other podcasts are we trying to produce at the same time?
Yeah.
And deadlines and all that kind of stuff. So plus there's so many more tools out there. There's so much more tech out there than when, 5-6 years ago. Yeah.
Every man and his dog has come up with an AI program to help you.
Yeah.
Right. So I think streamline your production process, but have a clear statement of practice, I think is really good, but always be refining that process. We have conversations every couple of months, don't we? What should we do? What should we drop? What should we change? How would that work?
What's working?
What's not working? Yeah, it's really, really important questions. One of the things that we have developed, talking of software, to help us with our process, because we've developed, I suppose, our own unique process before all the other bits of software came out. It's a bit like when we were in e-commerce, we had to create our own e-com site because Shopify didn't really exist. We've developed a platform which internally we call AMP, which has really helped us with our process. Yeah. And so we were trying to do so many different things, like you want a guest on the show, well, you do the pre-call. How do you get to me the pre-call notes? Is that a Google document? So then before I do the interview, do I need to? And there was documents, there was spreadsheets, it was all a bit messy, wasn't it? And so we just because we can, I suppose, we because of the ecom businesses, we got Mark and the guys onto the technical aspect of it, and they developed a platform where we could just put all of that into one place. So you've got editors, which we'll talk about in a minute. But we've also got the actual process itself, right? The actual content, the actual data, the streamlining, the interaction between the producer and the host. Yeah. That's a really interesting process for which we have developed AMP. Yeah. And that works really well for us.
We use it for every one of our podcasts, don't we? And it's great. You can schedule our guests. We can, we email them through that as well. We record all our notes on there, and everything's there.
It's great, isn't it? Because it's the simple things for me, like once once a guest has been on the show, even a client, when they've come on the show and I finish recording, I just go onto the system and I mark that episode as recorded. Yeah. So that tells the whole production team it's now good to go. But at the same time, it will fire off an email to the guest saying, thanks for coming on the show. Yeah. Here's a link to leave us a review. Here's a link to maybe send us some referrals. Yeah. So we fire off a couple of emails to them, and all I've done is I've just marked it's ready to go. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. We even use it for script generation. Yeah. We're kind of swaying into two here, aren't we? Number one was how to streamline your production process. Number two was how to leverage tech to make editing easier and more cost effective. Now, this isn't editing. This is actually just production. Yeah. But we've used our own tech as we've understood the processes to make it easier. Yeah.
And that's been our workflow, as you described, from spreadsheets to Google Docs to what we have now, it's we call AMP.
Yeah. Obviously, you might not have the ability to develop your own software. That's totally understandable. You've got to find a mechanism that works for you. My advice is use a minimal amount of pieces of software as you can, because the more you use, the more complicated it gets. I think if we didn't have AMP, I would probably just use something like Google Docs or I really like Craft, the Craft app.
Yeah.
Something like Craft where all the information can be put on there. But as it is, we can use AMP and we tried Craft for a little while, didn't we, going with production, but that was okay when there were more people involved. But I think even that we could put on AMP. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? So it's just one less bit of software that we use. But that would be my advice, use the least amount. But if you have the ability to use tech to make your whole process easier, then definitely do it.
Yeah.
Because we found it's been so helpful. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, definitely. Huge help.
Huge help. Huge help. So how do we leverage tech to make editing easier and more cost effective?
Well, Jaryd was talking about Riverside. We've talked about Riverside. That's one of the editing platforms that we use. The other one we use is Descript. Would you call it Descript?
Descript. Descript.
Which is also very good. And actually, I think
we've also used the traditional ones as well, like Final Cut Pro. And what was the other one? DaVinci.
Oh, yeah. That's
We've
right.
used DaVinci, both of which and DaVinci now actually has transcription features in. The reason we went with, so again, if we go back a few years, we started with Descript. Well, actually, we started with Final Cut Pro, but then Descript came out. Yeah. And the reason I liked Descript was because it meant that you didn't need to be a video editor to edit a podcast. Yeah. It made it so simple because it was a text-based editor. And we do video and we do audio. And so what Descript does is it takes the video, it transcribes it, it shows you the transcript. And so you can highlight text, you can cut, when you cut text out, it'll cut it out of the video. Yeah. You can cut sections out to create clips from them and all that sort of stuff. And so it's a really straightforward video editor that can get a bit more complex if you need it to be, but at its heart, it's quite a simple thing. Yeah. And it's really straightforward to edit video, produce the video, and produce the audio using Descript. It takes you a few hours to learn, but once you've got your head around it, it's really good.
Yeah, it is very good.
And that ability to edit via text is something you can't do on Final Cut Pro. You can do on DaVinci. Now they've got
the transcript.
They've got that transcript feature on there if you prefer a more traditional video editor. The reason I like DaVinci is it's a one-off cost. You're not subscription. It's no subscription. Same with Final Cut Pro. It's not like Adobe. You can use Adobe Audition and Adobe Premiere, which are industry standards. I'm really sorry, Adobe. I'm not a fan. I'm really not a fan of Adobe. So don't do it. Would be my advice. Anyway, that aside, that's a personal thing. But I think Riverside now seems to be doing a lot more of what Descript is doing. And Descript is trying to become more like Riverside as well. So they acquired Squadcast. That was it. Yeah, they acquired Squadcast, so they can bring that in. So I think there seems to be this sort of, it used to be you had to use both, but it seems to be now we're going down a place where you could use either. Would that be fair?
I think so.
Can you do in Riverside all the stuff you do in Descript now?
No.
Right.
No, not everything we were using it for.
Right.
So we're still doing a hybrid of the two.
Of Descript and Riverside. And it is one click, isn't it, between the two? So you can you can go between the two with they do integrate, it seems pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we still record on Riverside other than this one.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think my advice would be, tech to make editing easier. Just use whatever makes sense for you.
And what's cost effective.
Yeah. What other tech do we use?
Those are the main ones.
Didn't we just sign up to something?
Oh, yeah. We signed up to FlowSend. FlowSend dot
something.
AI, I'm guessing. I forgot.
FlowSend dot
Sorry,
AI.
Michael. Yeah, so that is the content side of things. So that will also pull out your transcript and then use the transcript to create the blog, the show notes, the title, the descriptions, the newsletter. It goes on and on and on. And it's actually it's not a set amount of content that you can create. You can actually be quite creative with it. So you can come up with your own stuff that you need to.
Yeah. It seems to be having had a little play on it. FlowSend obviously it uses AI to help generate content. So it takes a transcript and it uses AI to generate content. So my only caveat with using AI to generate content is there has to be some element of editing. Yeah. You can't just take it and put it out. Otherwise, I think you notice it's AI. I think we're all getting to that place where we can go, AI wrote that.
Yeah.
And so, but it takes away 90% of just it's really quick and it's really easy. And the thing I like about Flowsend is you can customize. It's a bit like if ChatGPT remembered all your prompts.
Yeah.
Right. And did it how it was supposed to, rather than having to write them in all the time. So whenever I use ChatGPT, I have a prompt file which I have to copy and then paste into ChatGPT. Whereas this sort of seems to remember them and just do the same every time, which is great. So it seems to work quite well. Then there's other tech you can use. There's a lot of these ones where you upload your video and it's supposed to create the shorts for you if you want to upload shorts to Instagram and
use
TikTok.
Something called Minvo for a short time.
What was it called? Minvo.
Minvo. That's what it's called now. I think it was called Memento at the beginning when they were first starting off.
Right.
And it didn't quite help us with what we needed, so we jumped ship.
Yeah.
But now it seems
we found it was the reason we jumped ship was it was just taking more time. So it would give you like 40 clips and you'd have to go through, read them. Yeah, or listen to them. Yeah, okay, that's good. That one's not good. Or let's edit that one. That needs a bit of text or it's cut it off too soon. Yeah. And so it was just quicker just to go through Descript and highlight the text and go create a clip from that. Yeah. Because you then got exactly what you wanted. And so sometimes these tools are designed to help you, just cause you nothing but more pain, is my observation. And so, yeah, just because there's a tool that you think is going to make your life easier, might not always. So do test them out would be my advice, the free trials. And my other thing is, just sort of bringing this in from the e-commerce podcast, really, when it says AI, it's not really AI. Everybody's using the phrase AI in their titles these days to try and convince you it's worthy of your $40 a month or whatever it is they want to charge you. It doesn't really mean anything. A bit like the word organic doesn't really mean anything anymore. But yeah, do try them out. So my advice is streamline your process, like Jaryd said. That was point number one. Get that honed down. Then look at each part of that process and go, is there a piece of technology that can help me do this bit better, easier, and quicker? So our favorites include Riverside. They include Descript or DaVinci, depending on which editors you want to use. We've now started Flowsend. To be fair, we've only been using it a week.
Yeah, it hasn't been very long at all.
We met the guys at the podcast show, didn't we? So we can't really, I kind of like it. I can't really comment on it. I think it's a bit pricey, but you know, that's everything's a bit pricey these days. And then the video editors, have we started using Movin again?
No, we haven't.
No, we still do it the old fashioned way. Okay, there you go. So hopefully that's helpful. Number 3, how to keep your audience central to your content. So this is a sort of slight step away from production. I liked how Jaryd wrote his own titles.
Yeah.
I thought this was really interesting when he said that because, again, we've tried different combinations of things, haven't we, in the past? The issue I have with you, going back to our AI conversation, if you ask AI to write a title, so you give it the transcript and say, give me a great podcast title for this show, it will come up with something which will say, Streamline Your Production, how one guy did it, or something like that, right? Based on I don't know what the title of this podcast is going to be, but it always likes this sort of, I'm going to give you a sort of mini phrase, a colon, and then another phrase.
Tagline type, yeah.
So any title I now see with a colon in, I'm just going, that was AI generated, and I've not even read the title. I'm switching off a little bit. So again, Jaryd's an old-fashioned copywriter. I would suggest looking at old-fashioned copywriting techniques. If you use AI, tell it not to use the bloody colon.
Yeah.
You don't need it. And to try different copywriting techniques on the title. The titles are important, I think. And for the longest time, we just kind of just whacked it out there and just did the next piece of content. But am I right in saying we're doing a piece of work now where we're reviewing previous titles?
Yes, we are.
And we're going back and we're changing titles of the podcast?
We are. It's just taking time because there's a lot of titles.
A lot of titles.
Yeah, that is happening.
And I think, so actually going back and changing them is not a problem. Because I think the more you do, the more you understand what your audience engages with. Like Jaryd was saying, he understands the language that they use. And a way to do that, by the way, as Jaryd was talking, I'm going to take a little leaf out of the old ecom book. If you're going, I don't have a membership. Jaryd's got a membership and courses. He can talk to people and he can understand the language they're using. I don't have that. One of the things that you can do, which works really well, is you can take a topic, right? So let's say in e-commerce, the topic might be email marketing, right? So we're doing a podcast on email marketing. You can go to Amazon and search for books on email marketing, right? And it will give you a whole bunch of books. Just take whatever the best-selling book is, one with the most reviews, and look in the reviews of that book, right? You can even get AI to now do this for you. You can post the link to Amazon in ChatGPT and say, read the reviews of this book and draw out common questions or common words or common phrases. I think it's still easier if you just do it yourself and you just scan down, you read the reviews, because this in effect is the same thing. So people will write in their review comments language which they use, questions that they have, which can really, really help you. So I can't imagine actually, we should check, but are there any books on how to do podcast production on Amazon? We can go through and we can read that. The other thing we can do is we can just search certain phrases, like on Twitter, for example. We did this with a beauty company when we launched it. We just went on Twitter and just looked at what people were writing about skin complaints, just took those phrases, used them in our marketing. It was easy. And so if you don't have a community yourself to pull in that audience and those phrases, you can go and find those communities, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on whatever social media platform, LinkedIn probably, but also through things like Amazon reviews. You can find all kind of phrases which you can then look at. Doing Google searches will give you a whole bunch of phrases. If you type in something on Google, like how to do podcast production, if I go to the bottom of the page, they give you 20 related questions or keywords which you can look at. So there's all kinds of possibilities like that. Don't get stuck by listening to Jaryd and going, well, I've not got his audience. You can start off by taking the audiences that are out there, scanning down and looking at what resonates. So yeah, do that. Would be my advice. But yeah, titles I think are super important, and understanding the key pain points, the wants, the desires, the needs, and all those sorts of things of your audience, and making sure that's talked about in the title.
Yeah, for sure. And as he said, he went on to say after that it helps build trust with your audience. Yeah. Because suddenly the content is relatable to them.
Yeah. No, super good. Super good. So that's how you keep your audience central to your content. Anything else? No? Okay, good. Well, that's it from Sadaf and myself. Next week we will be... we're starting a new guest.
Yes,
surely.
Her name is Kendall Brightman, and she actually works for Riverside.
Very exciting. I've never met Kendall, so I'm looking forward to this one. But like we said, on Friday, the full interview, the full conversation with Jaryd will be released. So make sure you listen to that whole interview as well. But yeah, it's been fantastic. Thanks, Jaryd, so much for coming on the show, man. Really appreciate your wisdom and insight. Learned a lot, as always is the case from you, my friend. And next week, sorry, Kendall, did you say? Kendall. We have got Kendall. So do come join us for that. Who is from River? What are you talking about? Have you actually had the conversation yet?
Yeah.
Awesome. Is it good?
Yes. They're all good.
They're all good. Stupid question, Matthew. Stupid. Anyway, so yes, thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic week wherever you are in the world. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode at PodJunction. If you've enjoyed the insights from this episode and want to hear the full conversation with today's special guest, don't forget to visit podjunction.com, where you'll find more information about how you can join PodJunction cohort. Whether you listened while on the go or in a quiet moment, thank you for letting us be a part of your day. Remember, every episode is a chance to gain insights and to transform your business with podcasting. So keep on tuning in, keep on learning, and until next time, happy podcasting.